Good morning. Today is Monday, the 27th of October. We're really getting down to the wire here. We're really getting down to brass tacks here. It's almost the end of October, meaning it's almost the beginning of November, because that's how it normally works. And we have Thanksgiving upon us. I love Thanksgiving. I can't wait to talk about Thanksgiving. I can't wait to give thanks. Eat pie. I haven't started calling Costco's yet. But that's my normal tradition. I call Costco's to see if the pecan pies are out. Also, do you say pecan or pecan, or do you say almond or almond, and do you say groceries or groceries?
I like their pumpkin pie. Pumpkin pie is really great.
But that's a year-round thing that they have.
Yeah, I heard this new food hack that someone did where you take a slice of Costco pumpkin pie, you get their vanilla sundae, you take half the vanilla sundae out, you put a slice of the pumpkin pie in, you mix it, and you get yourself a little pumpkin pie milkshake.
Wait, but then you don't enjoy either one of those. Like you can't enjoy, you don't enjoy them separately?
Yeah, I can't wait to try it.
Have you tried the Costco combo calzone? It's atrocious. I thought all you have to do is just roll up the pizza, but it's not good. But all of this is actually related to our topic for today, which is busyness. I don't know how it's related. This is October 27th, and you are listening to the Dear Church podcast. Welcome to the Dear Church podcast, where we exist to fill your ears and your minds with the study of God to see the world as disciples of Christ. My name is Sam Yang. We have with us Pastor Eugene and Chunseok and Brian. He's here, but he's serving the church in other ways right now, as he does. And I thought, Pastor Eugene, we never really get to talk to you about what's going on. People might not know about what's going on with Ethan right now. And so, how is everything going with Ethan? Are there any fun updates on Ethan?
He's 2 months old.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
He's lived a full life.
that's 8 weeks.
Yeah. Well, I told you this, but when Ethan came to church for the first time, I think he took a look at Nathan, your son. He's like, "Oh, I gotta catch up. Yeah, I'm way too small compared to this big boy." And so that night, I was feeding him because I do the night feedings. That night, I was feeding him, and he drank 9 ounces.
Wow.
I mean, he
And
did
that's
throw up
a
a
lot.
little bit, but yeah, that's 9 ounces is. You don't have a stomach for 9 ounces. I don't even know how he kept it in.
Is that triple the amount that a 2-month-old would normally eat?
I think they normally eat 4.
Okay.
5 if it's a lot.
Okay.
So he normally eats 5 to 6. now.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I mean, he's a boy. I hear boys eat more.
Yeah. Nathan and Ethan.
Yeah, Brian's going to have a boy. He's going to name him Big Thin, just so you know.
Big Thin.
Yeah.
That's a bad guy, actually.
He's one of the advisors for Ahasuerus.
He's the guy that tries to kill Ahasuerus, but then Mordecai says, no, no, no. This is from VeggieTales. Mordecai says no, and then he saves him, and then Queen Esther, yeah, I remember this. And then later on, Haman's like, oh, I'm going to get the parade, but it's actually Mordecai that gets it. At least that's what happens in the VeggieTales version.
Yeah.
And the ESV, I believe. But I was also curious, and I've been thinking about, because I think, when we consider podcast content, there are some things that go through my mind. I think a lot of people think that we go through topics that I'm going through, but that's not the case. That's not.
I think everybody thinks that.
No, that's not the case.
Chunseok thinks that. Brian thinks that.
No, but just because this content, the title today is concerning busyness, doesn't just mean that I'm busy. I'm not just talking about myself. But there are a couple things that go through my mind. What is the season? What is our country going through? What is our church going through? What are some topics that would be edifying and convicting for those who listen? And these are some of the thoughts and questions that I have, and even as I pray for this podcast. And so one interesting thought that I had was, thinking through what our region, we're in the northeastern portion of America, what our region suffers from in terms of ideology, secular theology, and idolatry, I was just kind of considering what are we most prone to? And two things popped into my mind. And perhaps this is something that I could ask you, Pastor Eugene, because you've been counseling for a very, very long time. What is a common issue that you have seen in our context? Any repeating sins or idols or anything like that in our area?
I don't think we're any special than other areas.
No.
Yeah, so I think the sins of the flesh that we see, especially in 1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 9 and 10, are the sins that we see here.
Do you want me to read that?
Sure.
1 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 9 to 10 in the ESV reads, "Or do you not know that the unrighteous will not inherit the kingdom of God? Do not be deceived, neither the sexually immoral, nor idolaters, nor adulterers, nor men who practice homosexuality, nor thieves, nor the greedy, nor drunkards, nor revilers, nor swindlers will inherit the kingdom of God." And so these are the sins that you're talking about. This is a bit more aggressive than I had expected. I was hoping that you would answer.
You don't think sin is a big problem?
No, wait, no, that's not what I was saying.
And no one's struggling with sin.
What I'm saying, so I didn't think that way. So I'm glad that we're doing this together because, thinking differently and whatnot. But the two things that popped into my mind were busyness and materialism. Did that not pop into your mind?
Yeah. I took it for a turn, huh?
Yeah, I was like, wait, these are not the topics that we're talking about. But, perhaps we could talk a little bit about the topics of busyness and materialism. This is something that I think a lot of people, in the world for sure, but I think in the Northeast, this is something that we are accused of at times, that we are so busy, that our calendars are packed, that they're full, that we have no time for anything. And at the same time that we are materialistic, that we value a lot of different things that are of this material world, this temporary world. And so I thought, why not just take some time to talk about these two topics, especially as we are coming across the fall season. And you know what fall means? It means it's Christmas time almost. And so, we started thinking about the holidays, Thanksgiving. And I was thinking before we get into the zone of the holidays, when we start to really feel the tug of perhaps these temptations of busyness and materialism, I thought, let's think about these topics biblically before we even get into that zone. And so I think, starting off with busyness, and that's kind of what we can talk about today, Pastor G, if you don't mind. It can be a trap because I think being busy can be seen as a good thing, right? We equate being busy with working hard. We equate it with being diligent, making use of our time, doing everything we can. And that's how we would think of busyness. But oftentimes I think the question has to be busy for the purpose of what? Like busy for what? Busy doing what? And I remember Proverbs chapter 26, verse 14, it reads, "As a door turns on its hinges, so does a sluggard on his bed." And I remember this text and, reading this text and thinking, wait, a door turning on its hinges, it's a sluggard turning on his bed. It's actually busy work. Going back and forth, turning frontwards and backwards is actually tiring, busy work, but the door stays put. The door doesn't go anywhere. There's no meaningless progress with the door. It's just moving back and forth, back and forth. It's just busy. And so the question is that what our calendars look like? Is that what our daily schedules look like? And so I want to talk about this topic and just kind of broadly start with, Pastor Eugene, is it good? Is it a good thing to be busy?
I think it's a blessing to be busy in the way that we should define busy.
Yep.
Is if you are working. And so if you're working and you're busy because of work, that's great. However, not all work is equal, and you might think you're working, but you might not actually be working in the biblical sense. And so then you're just a busybody.
Yeah, busybody.
Yeah, I think 2 Thessalonians chapter 3, verse 11.
2 Thessalonians chapter 3, verse 11 reads, "For we hear that some among you walk in idleness, not busy at work, but busybodies." See, that's a difference.
Yeah, so you could be a busybody.
Yeah.
And I think we addressed this in the past, but just as a quick review, you're supposed to work in the Bible. The Bible keeps on talking about working, Proverbs has a lot to do with work and not being lazy. So if you could either, Proverbs has this dichotomy. There's a contrast between those that are lazy and those that are diligent. And if you are a busybody, you are not the diligent. You might think you're diligently working, but you're just a busybody, which means, and this is what Paul also gets into, you are suffering from idleness. You are slothful. You are lazy. So you can be a busybody, convince yourself that you're busy with work. However, you are lazy. And what's a very clean difference on how we can tell between the two? If you look at Proverbs, when you work, you produce for your family. I think that's an easy way to put it. Okay, Proverbs 18:9.
Proverbs chapter 18, verse 9 reads, "Whoever is slack in his work is a brother to him who destroys."
And so you are either going to work to build, or you are going to work to destroy.
Okay.
And so if you don't know how to, if you're not building in your work, meaning you're not providing the things that you need for yourself and your family, for your church, your community, things like that. It's the work of a busybody. And so busybodies, I think the Greek kind of alluded to this, like someone hovering over you, just making busy. Like, because if you look at the context of 1 Timothy 5:8, it uses the same or similar word, and it's also translated as busybody. These are the people that are in line with slanderers. So now we have 2 Thessalonians saying this is idleness, and now 1 Timothy 5:8, it's slanderers. And so those are things that we should continue to think about. Wait, I don't think it's 1 Timothy chapter 5 verse 13. Sorry, we could do that.
1 Timothy chapter 5 verse 13 reads, "Besides that, they learn to be idlers, going about from house to house, and not only idlers, but also gossips and busybodies, saying what they should not."
So this is in line. So busybodies here is in that context are people who slander. So you're actually not producing. You're tearing down, and that comes from this understanding of 1 Timothy chapter 5 verse 8. So just go 5 verses above to verse 8.
Verse 8 reads, "But if anyone does not provide for his relatives, and especially for members of his household, he has denied the faith and is worse than an unbeliever."
This is how important the Bible teaches us the work that we do is. It's so important. This work is there for us to provide for our family members. You work so that you provide for your family members. And if your work isn't providing for your family members, you have to consider, I'm so busy. I have such a crazy schedule. Is it providing for my family? Is it giving sustenance to them? Or am I just a busybody? And so that's a good kind of check. I think this is a very basic thing that you could kind of put on your list to see, am I a busybody or not? Am I building up or tearing down? And one really big general check that you could have in discerning is, am I providing for my family?
But I think the difficulty, though, is what I've seen most is I don't think people know how to distinguish between being a busybody and being busy because they're all pertaining to work. So I think you could be a busybody at work, and I think you could also be busy at work. I think both of those things can happen.
Yeah.
And I think the difference is because a lot of people are salary based, right? Whether you're a busybody or whether you're busy at work, you're going to receive a salary. You're going to get paid for what you're doing.
Yeah, but you're not going to produce. Like
Right.
bosses will know. They're like, this guy always acts busy, but there's no outcome to his work. So he's scheduling all these meetings, he's attending them, he's doing all this stuff, but there's actually no fruit. There's nothing of substance that I can measure when it comes to this guy's work, and it will show on his eval. So I was like, I meet with all the clients, I make sure they're okay, blah, 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 but his client base didn't increase. The satisfaction of the product didn't increase. He actually hasn't increased his Rolodex, I don't know, whatever it is, like his connections or communications, his networking, nothing's changed. This dude is just busy. So he's a busybody. In fact, what he's doing is he's wasting your time, he's wasting your money, and that's the kind of guy that you would probably get rid of or have a very low eval of when you do his yearly assessment or whenever you do it at work. What you want is you want someone who can take the time that he's been given or she's been given and then start actually have measurable, tangible fruit or some kind of produce that you can see that is beneficial for you and your company. And this is not just, because it's through the production that the rest of the people are fed too, right?
Right.
So your busyness is actually laziness. It's taking away from the company. You're a drain on the company rather than a blessing. Oh, but he brings in like a nice environment. He's always funny, makes jokes, blah, blah, blah. And, during break time, I always have a nice laugh with him. Yeah, but dude's going to get fired. He's not producing. And so while these are pluses, these are like nice things to have in a person. When you're working, you need to produce. So back in the day, when this was being written to Thessalonica, to, Ephesus, there were busybodies. And the context kind of in that compound word that in the Greek that's used would have alluded to someone who actually hates manual labor. It's beneath them. I'm not going to do manual labor. In fact, I'm gonna busy myself doing other things like going house to house and talking. And you hear about this, blah blah blah. Here, I'm the source of information. Let me tell you about what's going on and things like that.
Right.
And you know what? In our society, there are still people like that. Maybe there are people in our circles that don't have a job, but for some reason they're always busy, and they're keeping busy. Is it producing anything? And that's a good question you could ask. So you could have a job, you could be busybodies. You might not have a job, you could be busybodies. But the point is, I think going back to that general check. Are you producing for your family? And can you do it better? Can you do it more effectively? This is where the whole Protestant work ethic comes from. It comes from the Bible. You are there to provide for your family. So even if you're a tent maker, even if you're a sewer, dry cleaner, whatever it is, what you're doing is you're doing this work to provide for your family. And I think that's a good thing. That's a blessed thing. That's a gift that God has provided for his people to do. If you don't do that, Paul actually admonishes his listeners, that person shouldn't even eat. Don't let him eat if he doesn't work. And we saw that, I think, in Thessalonians, right?
Yeah, right before the passage that we were reading. But so I'm trying to understand this in a more modern context. And the reason why I ask this too is because I think oftentimes our work culture is kind of like the highway speed limit. The highway speed limit might be 60. But if everyone's going 40, you're just coasting at 40. If everyone's going 70, you're coasting at 70. You follow the culture of what everyone else is doing rather than producing or being outstanding or standing out. And I think that translates to our work culture as well, where we just kind of do as our culture does. And so, sure, someone's working from 9 to 5, and you're supposed to produce 2 things that day, and everyone else produces 2 things or 1.5 things, and you just go with that culture and you just do what everyone else does. Are you saying that as a Christian, your standard has to be something completely different?
Yeah, we work for God ultimately. I get it that everybody has bosses and they might not recognize your work, so why work any harder?
You got to play the game, no?
You got to play the game to a good degree, right? So why would you do all this extra when you'll be taken advantage of, when you won't get any credit for, right?
Your pay won't go up.
Your pay might not go up, right? You won't show up on your next eval. Number one, we work under the sovereignty and the view of God. God is watching over everything. So when you're doing it, in fact, if you do work like that, it will affect your soul. And tell me if I'm wrong. If you are actually working like that, it's affecting your soul, because in the end, you start to harbor bitterness. You harbor bitterness against your boss, against your company, against your coworkers. You, in fact, will not facilitate a good working environment. In fact, that working environment, you will start saying is toxic. Well, you haven't helped. In fact, you may have, added to that toxicity. And so those are things that you have to consider. Why would we work hard? Because we have someone that we are working for ultimately. Ultimately, our work is presented to the Lord. You and I had a really quick conversation before this, and I talked about Joseph, right? Joseph worked hard, yes or no?
Yes.
Even though no one looked, yes or no?
Yeah.
Yes.
In prison,
Eventually
too.
people noticed, but sometimes they didn't notice.
Yeah.
Remember, when he was in jail, he worked. His jailer noticed, but he was still in jail.
Yeah.
So when he was like, all right, I'm going to give this dream interpretation to the baker and the cupbearer. And when the cupbearer had a good one, he told the cupbearer, he's like, please remember me. I'm in here for wrongful reasons.
Yeah.
Remember, because the
Free my
jailer
man
can't do
Joseph.
anything, right?
Yeah.
And so, cupbearer has an ear to Pharaoh, to the king. And the cupbearer's like, yeah, I'll definitely do it. Cupbearer completely forgot about
Yeah.
it. He did all that work. And the cupbearer completely forgot about Joseph until the time came when he remembered, oh, there is someone who can interpret dreams, Pharaoh. Is this guy who was in jail. Guess where Joseph still was?
Jail.
After all that time, he was still in jail.
Yeah.
So yeah, sometimes you might not get the recognition you need, but does that mean you shouldn't do the work? Joseph shouldn't have interpreted the cupbearer's dream? That's not how Joseph thought. Joseph knew that he was working for, let's go back to Potiphar. He was working for Potiphar. He's like, I can't do this to Potiphar. But more importantly, I can't do this against God. When it came to sleeping with Potiphar's wife, he's like, more importantly, I can't do this. It's an affront against God. So he knew that he was working for Potiphar. He needed to please Potiphar. Potiphar was his boss. He needed to make sure Potiphar did well. But even above that, there was God. Joseph knew that. And I think that's the kind of attitude we should have when we work. We shouldn't simply do it because we're just going to get an immediate benefit. That's the Protestant work ethic, by the way. The Protestant work ethic is, even if we don't see an immediate benefit, God is a just God. So if we do good and we don't see the immediate benefits, that means we don't reap the immediate harvest, God will store it up for us. There will be something good for us because God doesn't forget. God is the ultimate arbiter, judge, and things like that.
Right.
So this is why we go back to why our generation is flailing so much, and they're just like, I don't know what to do, and they're just like throwing their hands up in the air. It's because we grew up in the video game generation, did we not? The video game generation, we saw when you play a video game, if you like video games, that means you had a good outcome. So when you play a video game, the benefits or the results of that video game is immediate. It's immediate. You know what's not immediate? If you study, if you read a book, if you do homework, if you get a good grade on your test and then your course, like, you don't see the immediate benefits. Do you remember the grade that you got in social studies in 8th grade? You don't remember that, right?
No.
But you work for that.
Yeah.
But you also understand that what you did had a lasting and profound impact on your life.
Mesopotamia. Fertile Crescent. Yeah.
So whatever you did there is
Right.
my point, right?
Right.
But that's the difference. So now we have these two things. Like, we could do this and we won't see an immediate benefit. Why would I do it? So we take that into work. When I go into work, I'll work hard. Nothing's going to happen. Why should I work hard? I'll just play my video games. I'll scroll through Instagram because that's an immediate benefit. As soon as I see a funny video, I laugh. It's funny. I've seen the outcome. My endorphins are increased. I get the hit. Bam. So good.
Yeah.
Share it with my friends. My friends go, haha, that was so good, right? And I love that meme or joke. That's an immediate benefit. However, you sit down, you read Thomas Sowell, Basic Economics, which is a book I recommend. Are you going to see the immediate benefits right after? No, you're not. However, will it benefit you more, maybe exponentially more than scrolling through Instagram? Absolutely. You know this to be true. Why can't you do it? Because we are in this immediate gratification. I need to see the results now generation. And so it applies to our work too. That's why you can't work 9 to 5. When you go to your work and then you put in these hours, you're like, I feel like what I'm doing is absolutely meaningless. It's so stupid. There's so much baggage. There's so much politics. I won't learn anything. What if Joseph thought like that? He wouldn't have gone anywhere. The same for you. You will go nowhere. Maybe it's true. Maybe your workplace isn't the best. Maybe some of the stuff you will be looked over, passed over when you are the best person for the job? I don't know. That's definitely, we don't live in a perfect world,
Right.
but we do believe in a perfect God, a God who is just, perfectly just. So when you do that work, it's God who will remember. In fact, that's basically the entire book of Psalms. God, remember me. Don't let my enemies, succeed over me. And so I think that's the attitude we should have. I should pour out everything that I have in the labor that I'm doing so I could provide for my family. And if I get passed over or looked over, God will remember me.
Yeah.
And so he will use this for his glory and my benefit. And that's what you have to believe. I get it. This is a broad generalization and like an overview, but I wanted us to start there if that's okay.
But I think that's a difficult thing to do, though, because if we don't see the instant gratification, like if, for example, like I'm going to do this project, that project, I'm going to do this, I'm going to really pour out my hours into it and really spend every minute of my 9 to 5 doing this thing, then I don't get that promotion. It's extremely deflating. And you wonder, what was all this for anyway? So I get it that in the big scope of things, you're doing this for God. We can think about Joseph, but this is a hard thing to do.
Yeah. Because we don't see the immediate benefits.
Right. So
I think when you have kids, it kind of makes more sense. Why do I have to wake up in the middle of the night 3 times a night to feed this kid? And then, you don't even think about that. I mean, I don't have kids that older now, but my parents don't think about that. People that are empty nested don't think about that. It's like, man, what a waste of time that I woke up in the middle of the night to feed you. They don't say that.
Right.
They're so proud. Like the value that you've gotten from raising a kid, the value that the kid has in your life is infinitely more than the hours that you put into raising this kid. And so knowing that helps. It does help a little, right? When you're feeding the kid, it's better to know than not to know. But it's true whether you know it or not. Whether you know it or not, it's still true that when you wake up and feed this kid and make sure this guy survives, he will grow up and he will be of infinite value compared to not having a kid.
Right.
And so those are like, maybe not to you, maybe, but the life is of great, great value. At least we should acknowledge that. I guess there's other examples that I could have used, but this again is the Protestant work ethic. That you understand that when you plant it, God makes it grow because God is faithful. And so we should continue to plant and sow seeds.
Do you think there is such a thing as unhealthy busyness? So we just talked about what it means to work hard and be busy in the good way, producing, working for the Lord and not for men. Do you think there is a sense of an unhealthy business that you see in our workplaces and in our culture today?
Yeah, of course. I think a lot of people suffer from busybodiness in our, area. In the tri-state area where we are, there's a lot of busybodies.
Because people are so busy that their calendars are just packed. Like you can't do anything with people because their calendars are just packed.
Yeah, so you start to prioritize in life. You can't do everything. Once your kid grows up, you're going to ask the question, is taking my kid to soccer practice worth my time?
Right.
And, the answer might be yes, the answer might be no.
Yeah.
And you have to start to prioritize. What's my priority? Is it taking my kid to, our Friday night YNG gatherings? Mm-hmm. That's redundant, right? Because G is for gathering anyway.
Young and gathered gatherings.
Yeah, so.
Yeah.
So the YNG nights, or should I take them to, I don't know, whatever, chess night, whatever it is.
Chess night?
Yeah. Because I want it to be a good chess player.
Sorry.
I want it to be a good chess player. No,
yeah.
Chess is important. You should learn how to play chess.
No. I don't disagree with that. But
okay.
if that's your Friday
night, if you don't know how to play chess, you should learn at least some of the basic like openings and moves for chess.
I guess. Yeah.
Okay.
Do you think if I played Chunseok in chess, that Chunseok would be frustrated?
I think Chunseok will destroy you.
She's like, "Are you good at chess?" I think like 20 moves ahead. You don't think 20 moves ahead? How would you even think that way when I haven't made a move yet? How would you know? But I guess, just kind of going off of that, Pastor Eugene, just this idea of prioritizing our events, our responsibilities. Again, I think there is a sense of an unhealthy business that we have in our culture, where we need to fill every minute of our day, or else we feel like we're being unproductive, or we feel like we're being lazy, or we feel like we're not being diligent, or we're not being good kids, or we're not being good parents. What are some signs that you've seen that points to our busyness being God honoring versus being unhealthy? And I know you talked about production, but are there any ways that we can kind of reflect on our own lives and see, okay, am I a busy person or am I a busybody? If I'm a busybody, I want to change that to be someone that's God honoring in my work. So, what are some ways that we can kind of discern where we're at?
That's a really good question, actually.
Thank you.
And actually, maybe one of the best questions you've asked in a very long time.
In a long time is tough because I haven't been on here for a long time.
Ever since you've gotten back from break, it's probably the best question you've asked.
That was last week or so.
So what's the difference between like a busybody and someone who's busy legitimately? I think I might have to elaborate, but I think the answer is humility.
I think we may need some.
Yeah, I think the answer is
elaboration.
Humility.
Yeah.
You could be really busy and you go, I deserve this rest. I deserve to look through and scroll through Instagram. You don't know how busy I was. And I deserve to scroll through Instagram. It's my time. I need to rest. I need to recoup. Decompress. And then you scroll through Instagram and soon an hour passed by.
Isn't that how everyone thinks though?
Would a humble person think that? So even if you're tired, you go back home and then you're like, you know what, hun? You worked all day taking care of the kid. Let me hold the kid a little bit. Instead of you turning on the game. And you're like, wow, that's so stupid. Who does that, right? Actually, I think you really need to consider that as an option for you. Maybe sometimes you do need to watch the game. Not all the time. I get it. Maybe your team is having a great season and you want to watch the game. But the season's going to pass, like quite literally. Your baseball, basketball, whatever, football season's going to pass. And what you might leave is a lasting imprint on your child on when you make priority. So you're tired, you're dead tired, you come home. It's like, Dad, she's so happy to see you. She runs over. It's like, Dad, let's go color. It's like, no, I really need to decompress. You don't understand. Had a rough time at work.
Yeah.
So why don't you color by yourself for now? And so, this is the makings of a typical TV drama show, right?
Right.
But in the end, I think I can boil it down to humility. So even in my off time, what am I doing? Am I doing it for myself or am I doing it for others? Am I doing it to glorify God or am I doing it to lift myself up? Because I feel like I need to lift myself up, that kind of thing. So it may be a difficult thing for you to hear. It might be, maybe it's going to make you angry to hear this because your whole time you thought you deserved it. You deserve to scroll through Instagram because you work so hard. You need this break. I just don't think that really is the attitude of humility that we see Christ exemplify and that we see presented in the Bible. You really want to be able to be humble. And so think about humility first. When you open the door, you go home, or when you first sit at your desk at work, think about that first. What is the humble attitude that I should have? And that might help.
So I think, so even for our listeners that may not have kids at home, when you come home, I think some of the thoughts that people have are, well, that was a rough day. That was a long day. I'm just going to sit down, relax, pop open a can of Diet Coke Cherry, and just...
They don't have Diet Coke Cherry.
Is that not a thing?
Coke Zero Cherry, yeah.
Diet Coke Cherry is not a thing?
I don't think so.
That's disappointing.
Yeah.
They need to be better. So they go home, they open a can of Coke Zero Cherry.
I thought yours was the Mexican beer.
What? That's not
What's the Mexican beer that everybody drinks?
Corona.
Corona. See,
No.
you already knew what it was. That was
No,
a test.
I
You
know
failed.
what it is. No,
I know what it is. I know what a Corona is. I was testing you.
No, I passed though, because I knew what it was.
Sounds like a Michelob guy.
But I guess the question is, so are you saying that I can't do that? Like I can't go home and just be like, hey, you know what? It was a long day. It was a busy day. I want to just turn the TV on and maybe for an hour drink my Diet Coke cherry and just
So
relax.
I looked it up. Diet Coke has Diet Coke. They have caffeine-free Diet Coke, and they have Diet Coke Lime, which is a limited edition, but they do not have cherry Diet Coke.
That's disappointing. Maybe they're being busybodies, not producing.
I just don't think there's a market for people that want Diet Coke cherry.
But in this scenario, in this hypothetical situation, everyone does that. I mean, if you think about like the marketing that markets to that scene alone, just getting home after a long day, throwing your shoes off, or maybe not if you wear shoes in the house, and just saying, hey, you know what, that was a long day. I'm gonna just sit on the couch and just watch TV a little bit, not excessively, just a little bit, just to unwind or decompress, or maybe some people have like a glass of wine or something like that. That's a thing that people dream of. That's what like memes are made of. Like that's what we see in the movies. So you're saying that this is not a good thing for us to do?
So as I have become older over the many years now, the more I think, and I could be wrong, maybe I'll change my mind when I'm 65. I just doubt it. The more I think about it, the more I believe that to decompress well, you should work.
More. So you
Yeah.
worked, and then to decompress, you work more.
Yeah, I think you should work. I mean, this might sound crazy, but let's say you have a long day of counseling as a pastor, or you did a bunch of projects and some admin stuff. You go home, you're tired, and you see that the laundry needs to be done. I think you loading that laundry will help you decompress. You see a pile of dishes. I think you doing dishes will help you decompress. I do think so. I think manual labor is sometimes therapeutic. And so I think there are some gifts that we have when we go home, especially if you're a working dad and let's say you have a stay-home wife, and when you go home, there's work in the house to be done. I think it's a gift. I think if you plop yourself down and watch TV, you will not feel good because in the end, the laundry still needs to be done. The dishes still need to be done. And you just, spent an hour watching something that really didn't edify you. So maybe you just need to sit down and read a book because it's part of your devotions. That's cool too. You know what I'm saying? But I'm saying most people, when they say decompress, they do something mind-numbing.
Like not productive.
Yeah,
But that's the whole
mind-numbing.
point, though,
Right,
to
right.
not be productive.
So I need to shut off my mind for a
Right,
second.
right.
Like, my heart needs to take a break, so the heart should stop pumping for a little bit.
That's a life or death situation.
I think the same thing for the
Yeah.
mind. I think the mind needs to consistently work. And so the mind should always be working. And when you're resting, you're just not thinking about this particular topic, but you're resting from that topic and you go to another topic. So let's say you're trying to memorize something. A great thing to do is, you memorize as much as you can. You say it over to yourself, but then you take a quick break. But you think about something else. You don't just go, duh, and don't think about anything. And so you
Okay.
think about something else, and then when you come back to it, you see if you can jog your memory back again. And so that's like a memorization technique that people use still, that's still effective. It's just as good as mnemonic devices. And so repetition, I mean. And so those are things that people can use. So some people use mnemonic devices and memory. I just use repetition for me personally. And I feel like repetition is something that I can do pretty easily. You just have to say it over and over and over again. And when you take a break to let it kind of sink in, let it sit, I just think about something else, or I read something else, or I listen to something else. And then I go back to that. And then my mind is still refreshed. My mind doesn't stop thinking. I don't go to a place of like null. That
Right.
doesn't make any sense to me. The mind doesn't ever go to a place of null. Even when you're sleeping, the mind's constantly active, right? And so I think of it similarly to the heart. You want to rest your heart? Just get it to a resting beat, but don't let your heart stop. That's death.
So what you're saying then, let me get this straight. Let me get down to brass tacks. You know, I learned what that meant recently.
Oh, yeah?
It was from the 1800s. It was when the furniture, they used to have, the brass tacks was like the foundation. That's what everything, the foundation was put together with that. So when you're getting down to brass tacks, you're ripping apart the entire couch and getting to the crux or the foundation of the argument.
Okay.
That was good.
That's etymology.
What you were saying then is that the distinction between God honoring busyness and an unhealthy busyness or a busybodiness is a heart of humility. That's what you're saying at the root of it.
Yeah, because you're there to serve others. I do believe that that's why we are here. If, sometimes, yeah, you need to take a break. But I have found, so this is anecdotal now, I have found that everyone that has gone on vacations, meaning vacation, they have gone like on a cruise ship or the beach or some island or some distant land, right? They always come back and say, I need a vacation from my vacation.
No, it's true. This is the truth.
They always say that. And then I go, what a waste of time.
Yeah.
But no, I go back again because I had so much fun. And I go, no, because the purpose was you get rest, not have fun. So you're basically going there to have fun. So it's basically going there to expend energy. And so if you're expending energy, I hope that you could produce something. But people like, you don't understand, we should have fun going here and there. It's like, I didn't say I'm against fun. I think there are times to go have fun and go on those types or sorts of vacations, if I may. However, if you come back and say, I need a vacation from a vacation, then what you have said or told me is that you went to this specific and particular vacation to find rest and relaxation, but you came back more stressed, so it didn't work. So you failed in your endeavor.
It's ineffective.
You failed in your endeavor. My point is, if you're going to do that, just stay home and do the laundry. It's just as good. But, if you're like, oh, no, I really need to get out, I need to do blah, blah, blah. Maybe, that's what I'm saying. Maybe it's a heart condition that you need to check out. I don't mind people going on vacations. I think you should go on vacation. I think you should have fun. Think you should go to beaches and cruises and check things out. When I went to Hawaii, I had a ton of fun.
Mahalo.
But, hopefully when I came back, I go, oh, I need a vacation from this vacation. What a waste of time then. I went there to rest, so I did. Maybe you're doing vacation wrong. I don't know. Maybe you're doing vacation with FOMO, because a lot of people do that. Or if I'm going to go here, I need to do all these things.
Yeah.
And then, if I don't, I'm going to have FOMO, so you do all these things. So you're actually not refreshed. You're really tired because you did 16 things in one day. I don't think that's really effective. So maybe your vacationing methodology is wrong. I don't know. So, when my wife and I went to our honeymoon, we went to Kauai.
Oh, mahalo.
And it's one of the more untouched islands in Hawaii. Mm-hmm. It's still under a lot of construction. There's chickens running around everywhere because of the whole rooster thing. Yeah, you're like drinking coffee, and there were like 3 chickens next to us. Like,
isn't that scary? Aren't
pecking
they
at
aggressive?
your feet? Yeah, it's like weird. But
it's aggressive, yeah.
There's some of them are pretty aggressive. If you have fries, you better watch your fries because they can peck at it.
Ooh.
Anyway, so we're like, oh, what are some of the things that we could do? I was like, oh, we should do this, we should at least do this, right? But if the day got too busy, I was like, let's not do it. Let's just relax and let's just have a walk. And it was one nice one where we were just walking down one of the streets because I wanted some spam musubi at like a local supermarket.
Delicious.
Yeah, it was like $1.50, and it was totally worth. But we got some spam musubi that, like, you're lucky this thing sells out usually like within the first few hours of the day. But they had like 2 left, so we got to eat that. We're walking down, and lo and behold, there's a flea market just randomly. So we got to go to the flea market, spend some time there, and then walk back to our hotel. Sometimes nice things can happen. But if you're like, oh, I got to do this, I got to go to the fire show, I gotta go to this thing here, I got to go scuba diving, all this stuff. And then you have fun, but you're so busy. And so you actually don't feel relaxed. But the whole point of the vacation was to relax, was it not?
Right.
So I think maybe you're vacationing wrong. I don't know. So I'm not against vacationing. Don't get me wrong. But if you come back and you're not rested, then the purpose of the vacation was bunk. You failed. I hope you realize that. Do vacations better. I don't know
That's
what
true.
else to say.
Vacation better.
Vacation better, folks. Yeah. You know what I liked, Sam? Can I share something personal?
Wait, what do you mean?
So back in the day when both our daughters were pretty young,
Yes.
and Chunzuk, I forgot who else was there. It wasn't Brian. It was David.
The pie place?
The pies.
Yes. Noble Pies.
Yeah. So I think it's in our podcast, but you mentioned it. But that was a relaxing Monday. Like we just
was
spent
fun.
the entire day just to get a slice of pie, and that's it. Then the day was done. Like it was a big fat waste of a day. You might think we went all the way upstate, like all the way to it was like a 2-hour drive. And we went and got like a medium good pie. It wasn't the best pie, but it was a medium good pie.
Wait, we did that twice?
Yeah, we did it twice. And then we got pie, and then we went back home with our kid.
Yeah.
But that was, the little things. It wasn't the pie that stood out to me. So this is the personal aspect. What I remember about one of those days is my kid climbed up
I remember
this little fountain thing. It was like 2-3 steps up, and then my kid became like around the same height as me, and she would jump off the ledge into my arms.
I remember.
And then when you did it to your daughter, she didn't. She refused.
wanna
She
do
was
it.
very scared.
Yeah.
So I showed her. See, look at my daughter doing this to me.
Yeah.
I caught her, right?
Yeah.
I'll do it to you.
Right.
Don't worry. And then she actually jumped into my arms like a bunch of times.
She's a very skeptical individual. Yeah, she does not trust me.
But for me, that was a memorable experience because I got to know your daughter a little bit more. I got to spend time with her.
Right.
And my daughter and your daughter got to play. That's what I appreciated more than, let's say, the pie.
The pie was pretty good. It's B+ at lowest ranking. Like, it was pretty good.
I went to ShopRite the other day and I spent $6.99 on
no.
an apple crumb pie.
No way.
And it was almost as good.
No, I think.
If your pie was like
I
an A-, that was like a B+.
I don't know.
And I didn't spend 2 hours driving. So that's that's an extra grade right there.
That's true.
So that's an A- there. Both A- pies.
The ShopRite makes good stuff. Yeah, they're quality business. But I mean, so it's humility, and I think it's kind of, someone might think it's unrelated, but the more and more you think about it, I think you're absolutely correct. It's the difference between God honoring busyness and an unhealthy busyness or busybodiness is humility. And so what you're saying then is that if we can discern this, that, hey, maybe we're not humble. Maybe we are just busybodies and not honoring the Lord with our busyness. If that is the case, what you're saying is the best way to heal that or to remedy that is to, I guess, change our mindset, our heart, and then to work more. Am I saying that correctly?
I think you should truly serve others. You should love the other. You can't pastor if you don't love your congregants. Like when you counsel somebody or when you minister to them or when you preach, if you resent the people that you are counseling, you can't do this for long. You got look at these idiots. They don't even know what they're doing.
Yeah.
These poor saps. If you really thought like that, you can't really counsel them. You just become bitter and you become a terrible counselor in the end too. But you might say good stuff that people like, but you yourself will be a terrible counselor.
Right.
You'll be a terrible person. So you got to really love the people that you serve. Same thing with work. Let's say you feel like work is completely unrelated to your spiritual life. At least, Sam, you get to work and serve the church, so directly connected to God.
Difference, yeah.
But I sit behind a cubicle, I enter numbers into a spreadsheet, and I see almost nothing. And I don't think there is any productivity to that. I think I'm just filling the seat.
You just benefit the company. Yeah.
Let's say that's the case, right? So I would go on to think like, is any of this going to be useful for me in the future? Any of it? And if you can't honestly say nothing will benefit, then you start to make moves to change your job. So I'm not saying I'm not always saying stick to your job, never change it. But I'm not saying everything should be, hunky-dory all the time. Or, sometimes jobs might not be good, But I'm saying most of the time it's not the case. I think people, people just don't see it. And just because you don't see it doesn't mean it's not there. And so sometimes it could be a skill set you're developing and it might benefit who knows what, who knows when. I was just thinking about this, but I'm currently reading a book by Soul. That's why it's called Discrimination. But,
Thomas Sowell,
yeah.
good guy.
But yeah, if someone looks at me, this actually happened to me. I was in Best Buy, just, perusing. And I think I needed to get something. I forgot what it was. But this is when I was really young. And some old lady came and asked me for help. I was like, yeah, I'll help you. I was like, oh, so what's so good about this computer? Like, and I helped her. It's like, yeah, so can I ring it up with you? It's like, no, I don't work here. So she just automatically assumed I worked there.
Yeah.
I might have been in my, business casual because, I was in IT before and that's what our, dress code was. But I didn't mind helping her. I was thinking about stuff like that. I worked in IT for a very long time and I had those questions too. What is this skill set going? Who's this going to benefit? Mm-hmm. I don't think it's going to benefit anybody. I think I was a little naive. I think IT skills can benefit people. Maybe not your particular exact, because I was in firewalls at the time, so I was in IT security. And so maybe not those exact things, but to get to IT security, I needed to know basic things about computers, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And so that I was able to help out this poor lady who didn't have anybody in the Best Buy. None of the workers were around. It was like empty. I don't know where they all went. So she just asked me and I helped her. But I'm just saying this is a very, very small thing. It's a very tiny thing. It's a minuscule thing. But there are a lot of things that can pass together. There are a lot of things. You could start adding it up. Like every time someone wanted to build a computer in my family, I helped them build a computer together. Back in the day when building computers were a thing, right? And now, I think it's pretty easy now. Everything is just pretty much plug and play. But a long time ago, you needed to have the right drivers. You needed to make sure it was compatible with the motherboard. You needed to make sure it had enough RAM memory to make the programs run well. Blah blah blah. So you needed to make sure all those. Back then you needed to make sure all those things were there.
Yeah.
I think now, as long as you have a nice GPU, you're pretty golden. But
CPU.
No, GPU. Graphics.
There's a CPU and a GPU, both of them?
Yeah. CPU is
What's a RAM, by the way?
random access memory. But, I don't think, that's the thing. You don't need to know it, and you can use the computer.
That's a car brand.
Yeah. That's Dodge.
RAM is not a car brand?
No, it's a model.
I've been tricked.
But the point is, whether you know it or not, the things that you develop, the skills that you develop can help people. And if you feel like you're not developing skills, yeah, maybe it's time to reassess. But sometimes you might be wrong too. You gotta be a little more humble in your assessments. Everybody thinks they can be like the most useful person in the world, like they need to be president or something like that. I don't think so. I think you could be a shoemaker and really bless the world that way.
Yeah.
You can learn how to put computers together, and you could bless the world that way. That's what I think. So I think the little things that you do, if you do it diligently, if you do it well, if you learn it, it can benefit society.
I think this is a very interesting turn that we took because I don't know if people would have expected the sign distinguishing the two to be humility and for the remedy to serve others.
Yeah, if you're a busybody, you don't serve others. You're only serving yourself. It's under the guise of serving others. Maybe that's why it's even more, terrible. It's so much worse because under the guise of serving others, you're a busybody, you're a gossiper, you're a slanderer. Oh, that's even worse,
Yeah.
Than being outright slanderer. And so you think you're doing good when you're just a terrible person. And so those are things that Paul warns against. And again, if you go back to Proverbs, there are just a chock full of verses that talk about how important our labor is.
Right.
And how labor is glorifying to God. You think you're a cog in the machine, but man, the machine's pretty big. And it's only gotten as big as it is because of all the labor that everyone put in.
Right.
And so, we could have our iPhones because of people who did spreadsheets,
That's true. You may be the reason why we have iPhones today.
saying it's part of the reason.
Like a minuscule one, but
All the things.
right.
I doubt that, all your diligent labor is all for naught. I think God is the one that uses it and he makes it grow.
I think that's an encouraging way of.
Can I go to the second portion because our time's kind of going up? Second portion is if you work, you have to be careful about sin.
That was the first portion.
The first portion was humility.
Oh, there was more?
Yeah.
Sorry.
So the second portion is you have to be careful of sin. So the opposite of humility is thinking of yourself more highly than you ought. It is sin. And sin will prevent you from producing well. In fact, it will destroy your crop. It will destroy your product. So this is why we need to repent, and we need to make sure that our life isn't, going to be impeded by sin when we want to produce for God. So whether it's bitterness, whether it's just outright sexual sin, or all things like that, you need to make sure that you don't give into this. Because sin is what will bring us to the self-deception that we are worth more than we are, or, we're just irreplaceable in our work, blah, blah, blah. That's the sin of pride, not to mention just ignorance, right? Everyone's replaceable. But I once saw a really good meme that I enjoyed, not because it's right, because it was kind of just funny. And the meme was, let me see if I can find it. If I can find the meme. Yes, this is the meme. I'm humble enough to know I am replaceable at work. That's a good line, right? But there's a little subtext right below it. So the big text is, I'm humble enough to know I am replaceable at work. And the subtext says, but I'm confident enough to know that it would take 4 people.
That, you got me.
That's something that you would post on your
would.
cubicle.
That's
if you were in a
funny
cubicle.
thing.
Yeah.
Wow.
It's funny, but you have to also know that you are replaceable. But you want to make yourself valuable.
Yeah.
I think that's the thing. And so you're valuable, meaning you want to be of value to others. And so hopefully you could take that for what it is wherever you're working, because we have, such a large range of jobs that people do in our church.
Yeah, I think that's really helpful for us and encouraging too as we consider to think about this. I would not have thought that this conversation would have gone this way, but I think I rarely do.
Yeah, I think what you should know is that every time you bring up a topic, I'm really like preaching to you,
Dude, Junza.
to you personally.
Junza.
I want you to listen to this.
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, I listen to it on Mondays to get our views up. But I think it's really helpful. I think humility and also watching out for sin. I think those are really helpful things for us to consider and think about as we look through our calendars, even as we look through our daily schedule. Are we serving others, or are we doing this just for ourselves? I think those are helpful things for us to reflect on and think about. Should we move on to current events, Pastor Eugene?
Yes.
The current event of the day is a question on IUD, not to be confused with IED, which is what I was confused about. IED is a homemade bomb. IUD is a birth control contraceptive. I was like, why are we talking about bombs? But it's an intrauterine device. IED is not that. And so an intrauterine device is a form of birth control that a healthcare provider inserts into your uterus. And once it's inserted, an IUD can prevent pregnancy for up to 10 years or more, depending on the specific type that you're putting in. And your provider can remove your IUD at any time if you decide to become pregnant. This is from the Cleveland Clinic. And there's a reason why I'm bringing all this up, and there's a reason why I'm kind of going through the details here. There are they are the most common type of long-acting reversible contraception, and you don't have to worry about birth control until it's time to replace it, which is 3 to 10 years depending on the brand. And as a matter of fact, they are the second most popular form of reversible birth control after birth control pills. As a matter of fact, 1 out of every 4 or 5, 23% of women on the planet that use contraception use IUDs. So this is a very, very popular contraceptive. There are 2 types, copper and hormonal, named because the first one has a thin copper wire, and the hormonal one contains the hormone levonorgestrel. If Brian puts all of the attempts that I put in there, I know he hates me. Levonorgestrel. And so the reason why I bring this up is because this being such a popular and widely used method of birth control, some don't know how it works. And so I wanted to go through this quickly and talk about the Christian ethics behind this in regards to such a method. So at a basic level, copper IUDs trigger an immune system response. They have a small amount of copper, which causes a response in which the body creates a toxic environment for the sperm. The body causes inflammation, and so the sperm cannot reach the fallopian tubes to fertilize the egg. That's copper IUD. Hormonal IUDs release progestin, which is a synthetic version of the hormone progesterone, which causes cervical mucus to thicken, which makes it difficult for the sperm to get to the uterus and to reach an egg and to fertilize the egg, or it stops the eggs from leaving the ovaries, so it stops ovulation. However, for copper IUDs, the uterine lining becomes inflamed and does not allow a fertilized egg. Should the egg get fertilized, it does not allow the fertilized egg to implant on the uterus wall and develop. And for hormonal IUDs, it thins the uterine lining, making it difficult for implantation if fertilization were to occur. Not all websites and sources have that information. They only have the first 2. They don't talk about the fact that if, however, the egg still does get fertilized, what happens after that. Only very certain websites have that kind of information. And so this, in essence, is abortion. There is a fertilized egg, and you're not allowing it to implant on the uterine wall. You're just allowing it to just flush out. Is this ethical according to the Bible?
No, obviously not. If it's an abortifacient, then it is not.
What do you mean by abortifacient, by the way?
That means you see fertilized egg, and then you get rid of it.
No, I'm not asking for me. I'm just asking for like the general populace.
Yeah. There's some whatever prevents you from having the fertilized egg plant itself on the uterine wall, we consider that abortifacients.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, I bring this up because this is extremely popular, and I don't think people are aware of that aspect, that this is an abortifacient. I don't think people are aware of that.
Yeah, and so it's good to know. I think John Piper talked about this many, many years ago, and that he and his wife, he has shared that, took some contraceptives. By the way, contraceptive is the opposite of conception. Contraception, right? Mm-hmm. And so conception is a blessing from God. Contraception is the prevention of conception. So
okay, contra, not con.
Yeah.
Okay.
So you have to know what you're doing is the opposite of what we had always considered a blessing from God. Mm-hmm. So whatever reason you have for not having a child should be something that's heavy, measured, discussed within the family, and something that you should take very seriously, which I think most people do, which is a good thing, right? Mm-hmm. So we don't take it lightly. Like, oh, we're not ready, we're not gonna have kids, blah, blah, blah. Like, contraception shouldn't be the first thing to go to. Mm-hmm. I believe it should be conception, and then contraception should be something that comes after. Mm-hmm. So I think people default contraception first, but I believe that conception should be first and default contraception, not default contraception first. So that I think we've mixed the two. However, going back to John Piper, he did mention that back then they didn't know much, so they used what they believed to be contraception, and it could have been abortifacient. So if that's the case, then he was very, very. I think he was very somber when sharing this.
Yeah,
he was very sad that it could have been a possibility. between him and his wife.
Yeah.
Because not only are there IUDs that can be abortifacients, but there are some low dose oral contraceptives that you take that are hormonal, that affect your hormones, so it'll thin out your uterine wall.
Yeah.
Through that hormone manipulation. And so, I think some versions of the pill actually do that. So, it's not just IUDs. Sometimes some versions of the pill will do that. These are some things that we really need to be careful of. And, I got to say, most of the people that are on contraceptives, they might not be even married. So you have to be very careful on why you are sinning against God through this kind of promiscuity when God commands you to get married, and then this is a gift from God, so you're abusing this. And so this is something that we should be aware of in today's times.
Yeah, I thought it would be helpful for us to know, especially because this is a widely used method, like you said, of contraception. And so I wanted our people to be aware of that and to know and just kind of think through these things biblically. I think that's the thing that we don't do oftentimes is we think of it as practically as possible, maybe even financially. Is this financially, okay for us, whatever and whatnot. But for us to think through these things biblically, I think would be of the highest priority for us as Christians. Pastor Eugene, I think that is... Anything else, Pastor Eugene, today?
No, I got to pick up Elizabeth.
Okay. We thank you for listening to this episode of the Dear Church podcast. We hope and pray that this has been a blessing in your ears. Fight the good fight, finish the race, keep the faith.
Peace.